The ceiling is now removed. I no longer have to play within the algorithm. 10 years from now, we will most likely be very accustomed to virtual reality.
Rolling up. Entertainment.
What is good, beautiful people? It's your host, Daniel Mons from Rolling Up Entertainment, a platform to shine light on the truth of creatives. It's a pleasure to connect you all to individuals with different insights, stories, and people to elevate your thought. Today, we have a guest on the sunny side of Brisbane, aka Bris Vegas. He's an individual that's been in this music space for a very long time, a recording artist, an entrepreneur, a lyricist in mind, a conscious creative at heart. Musically, he's been in this game for a hot minute. He's coming up to, and it's crazy to hear this, 500 million streams and views across platforms as an independent artist. He's truly on the front line in terms of creating his own lane within the NFT and music space that's coming up. I'm grateful to introduce the philosophical lyricist Jacob Lee, aka Lowly, to the Rolling Up podcast.
How you doing, man? Thank you for the intro. You're just way too kind.
It's good to have you here, man. Keen to dive into a multitude of topics as well as yourself. Jumping first in, how do you one, introduce yourself to the everyday person, and then two, in this digital space that we're diving into as of current, how are you introducing yourself in the two realms of the physical and the metaverse, if you want to call it?
Yeah, I would say initially within like the regular media pre-NFTs, like I would just say that I'm a singer-songwriter who prioritizes lyricism. I do like pop alternative type music, and I try and make it palatable for everyone who's out there in a certain way. So even though everything I do is quite narrative driven, I do try and make it more pop centric so more people can listen to it. So I guess, yeah, singer songwriter in that regard. And then a lot of us, even though it sounds weird, try and call ourselves pioneers of the NFT music space. And so I think in all the discussions that I've had in regards to where that is going, I try and be on the forefront amidst those who are doing a similar thing to me, which, you know, I've found maybe 10 of us maximum. I'm sure there's more of them, but I've found about 10 people who are really like actively engaged in the community, and I'm just one of them.
It's wild, right? It's such an early space that we're diving into that not many people are understanding. That's why we have the pleasure of having you on today, as well as diving into the topic. First off, what do you, when you hear that this like new word that's coming out as of recent, metaverse, what makes you, I guess, how do you define that? How do you define that for yourself? And NFTs, just a basic, probably, if you can, 2 to 3 minute snapshot on what you see it
Yeah.
as.
I mean, I see the metaverse as kind of like a collaboration of different virtual universes in a way. So I don't feel like one person can kind of monopolize what it is. I think there's a number of them being developed simultaneously right now. And so, in my opinion, I'm just going to remove the Discord that's going on. My opinion, it would be all of them bridging together in a certain way. And so I feel like that'll be done in the future. No one can predict when. But in my opinion, a metaverse is a virtual landscape where you can pretty much do most things you would do in real life, but you can be identified and represent yourself in a multitude of different ways. NFTs, in my opinion, in the most, I guess, simple sense, would be that they're just digital collectibles at the end of the day. And so when you purchase something, you're purchasing a scarce digital asset of someone or something. Perhaps it's a group, a corporation, an individual that you like and that you believe in. And once you purchase that collectible, then you are then invested in that product alongside that artist, and you might succeed financially alongside them if they do well.
And how did you get your, like, what creative freedom did you see NFTs invoking for yourself outside of the previous like success that you have had? And we will dive into that a bit later, but you're diving into that creative, he's allowing creators to really hold on.
Yeah. Sorry, you got a little bit rugged. I think it might be my internet connection. But can you just quickly elaborate on the end of that question?
Yeah, what type of creative freedom has NFTs allowed you as now, a person that's been creating for a long time to be able to have now?
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say that the ceiling is now removed. That's kind of something that I say frequently. Like, I no longer have to play within the algorithm of everything else. Like, YouTube has a very select one, Spotify has a select one, Apple Music has a select one. And so you kind of need to morph your creativity and your product to fit what they will like so then you can succeed. And that's not to say that you won't be an authentic artist in doing that. It just means you have to keep it in the back of your mind. In my opinion, what is good about the NFT world, the metaverse, the blockchain, is that right now there really is no algorithm being decided by a company. You know what I mean? And so I think that for me is exciting because I've never really played within the trends of what everyone else has wanted. I've tried to identify myself as someone who goes against the grain, and so in pop music, you shouldn't really be prioritizing really in-depth narrative-driven lyrics. It just doesn't really work if you want to
Mm.
get played on radio. But I love it. It's inherent to me, and so I did it anyway. And now what I'm finding within NFTs, I can really kind of shine a light on that and not feel as though I'm being suppressed or compressed in any way. Like I can just be myself here, without any sort of repercussions as to what the algorithm will do if I don't do what it wants me to.
Mm. And you've been growing alongside this. It's not just like just NFTs you've been growing in, but you've definitely across Spotify. How are you both growing at the same time? Is it going to be one kind of like replacing the other, which we know, or is it going to be working simultaneously with Spotify, working alongside NFTs and crypto? Like, how do you kind of seeing it playing
Yeah.
out? It's a very ambiguous question, of course.
Yeah, I would say for me, like there are two schools of thought that I've come across in various people I've spoken to within this space. Some of them are just going full crypto centric, like they're only releasing their music as NFTs. And
Mm.
I think that's cool. Like I think that's admirable, especially if you haven't seen a certain level of success in the previous media. With me having built a following over 6 years, 7 years now, I feel like it would be a little bit remiss of me to not continue along that path. And so for me, what I'm figuring out is that the NFT world is simply one other window that I can look through and that I can put my product in so people can then view it that way. So I'm still going to be prioritizing Spotify, YouTube, everything because I feel like that is a place that I can connect to a certain group of people. And the NFT community is a very select niche group of people right now. And so I don't feel like I would be able to publicize what I'm doing to them if I was not in this space. However, I don't want to disregard everyone else who's followed me for a long time either. So I'm
Mhm.
planning on doing like a simultaneous thing. Personally, like my interest is in NFTs right now, like fully. Like I need to structure my day to make sure that I'm not only doing NFTs. But I need to continuously remind myself that like there is a lot more that I need to continuously cultivate. And at the end of the day, all we're doing is reaching people through any which way and any avenue. So I will be continuing along with the traditional stuff, but a slow but sure kind of conversion into NFTs over the next few years, I would say.
For sure. And touching on two areas, what areas have been most helpful for you diving into this space very early for someone that doesn't know? They're like, oh, NFTs, how do I get involved? Is it Twitter? Is it Clubhouse? Is it Discord? Is it a bit of, combination? And then can you touch on your alias lowly lyricist that you've created and why you created that name?
Yeah, totally. So for those just getting into the space now, and was the question more centered around how they would integrate themselves? Is that the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Correct.
like for me, what I did was simply play around within marketplaces, and that doesn't even mean buy something. Like I think buying something does help you in figuring out how the minting process works, how gas works, and all of that kind of thing. However, if you don't have money to play with, It would more so be look at what marketplaces are available, do some research into what a blockchain is, what NFTs actually are, and really just start at the most simple kind of area. Go on YouTube and look at those people who articulate it really well, because I've found that articulating what an NFT is can be quite confusing to someone who's not really jumped into the space before. And so I feel like it takes a little bit of time to digest all the information that this is. And so it would be simply not to rush. And if you have an interest and there is some sort of passion that's kind of brewing inside you, then just slowly but surely, communicate with those who are currently doing things in the space. So if you're not on Twitter, definitely make a Twitter account, because that's where most of us are hanging out. If you're not on Discord, that's where most people will be directed. If you do find a community you like, that's probably where you'll be directed. So those two mediums are the way to go, in my opinion. And yeah, just take your time. And so you want to know about Lowly?
Yeah, for sure. You've come from a background of having, and I have a whole lot of admiration for it, because you've had hundreds of thousands across your YouTube, your Instagram, and other platforms, and now you've transitioned to start pretty much at baseline like everybody else, and saying, "No, I'm going to start at zero." Not even like anybody else. Like it's wild for you to say, "I'm going to start at zero. I'm going to build this platform up from the baseline and start to learn again." Why did you choose to do that when you had such a large following and background, when you could have done the
Yeah,
alternative?
there's a multitude of reasons for that. First one is that I wanted the merit of the project to be enough. I'm somebody who loves a challenge in any regard, and if I can not make something more difficult for myself, but if I can create something that people will enjoy despite who it's connected to, that is something that for some reason just entices me, or it incentivizes me to create something that might be a little bit more difficult, but maybe has some level more authenticity to it. I'm not sure. At the end of the day, the reasoning for it is that, alongside the fact that Lowly Lyricist is the protagonist of a universe that I'm slowly making. And so this universe is called the Conscience Codex. I don't need to go too deeply into that unless that's something we want to. But there are various people who have transcended what the regular mind is capable of within this universe. And one of them is called Lowly Lyricist, and that's simply because that alias is something that I've held close to me for probably the entire career that I've had. And I don't even know why. It's just been a part of me, and I've always had it in the back of my mind and wanted to do something with it and never really knew what to do with it. And so now that this space exists, it's the perfect opportunity for me to create something with this alias and develop a character that exists within the metaverse. And so that's what I'm trying to do with Lowly Lyricist.
Well, it's very similar to what Snoop Dogg has done as well. And I know you're familiar with his work in terms of, creating an alias for Cosmos the Medicine that he kept very under wraps and didn't tell anybody about until only recent. And he let like you did, as a collector, he let his collecting and trading do the talking. He didn't put
Yeah.
any name of Snoop behind it. People figured it out. And I think you've pretty much done the same. I know you don't come into Twitter spaces saying, "Hey, I'm Jacob Lee. Go check out my work, then come check out." I've never heard that. I think it is important. Yeah, let's say into the conscious codex and your personal parchments, because I think it's important to touch on what an NFT project that is successful and getting some runs, what that looks like for the person that's thinking of creating their own and they're not too sure and they're starting at zero, just like you do through Lowly Lyricist. I think it's important to understand,
Hmm.
how do you go about it, because there's no blueprint. There is no blueprint. Like,
Hmm.
you are one of the individuals that is creating a quote unquote blueprint, because there's no right way to go about this. But it definitely does help provide perspective in saying, I might do it a little bit in that way. I might go down that platform. So touch on your NFT project, please.
Yeah. Yeah. No worries. So the Conscience Codex itself, it kind of arose in a very strange way, to be honest with you. It never was intended to be this big as such, and so it's not big in the way of publicity as yet. I'm still working on that, especially because I'm working through the Lowly account. Like, it takes a bit more time than me just kind of blasting it to my following on YouTube or whatever. And so originally the plan was to simply create a project which would provide utility for my current listeners and fans. Like, that was the height of the idea. And so what I wanted to do was create these conscience cards, like these animated spinning cards that looked beautiful, that represented various songs on the album, which I released about a year and a half ago. And if they purchased the NFT, they would get free access to shows and early access to music, and like an unlockable link, which if they were to click into that, they would get all the assets from that song in one place. And that was enticing to me personally, as someone who likes to provide value for my listeners. But once I minted it, like literally like one of those weird epiphany moments, once I actually put it on OpenSea and minted it, I realized that these cards could be the catalyst to something much bigger and much greater. And I was kind of learning a lot about Metaverse then, and I realized that I don't have the means to create a metaverse, but I do have the means to create a universe, and something that is more based around narrative and storyline, which, as you know, like that's something that I do. And then I kind of spoke to my artist Mahi and another dude called Ryan who goes by Resurrect, and we started talking about the idea that this could become something a lot more than what the cards were. So then Lyricist came into play, and he is this transcendent within the universe. That's what they're called. And so now that, and I won't go into the lore too much because I know it's a lot, but briefly, humanity has reached a point of catastrophe. They no longer exist within this plane that we currently do. And so now they're stuck within this afterlife. If they didn't receive a certain level of intellect or enlightenment through striving to be better in actual life, they didn't get to go on to the next phase. And so they're kind of stuck in this purgatory or this limbo. And so what they need to do, and this all again came from the cards, they need to locate the cards which Lowly Lyricist has developed, which hold the wisdom of those who have passed through. And so once they find them, then they have the access into the next area. So that's kind of like what came to my mind when I started thinking about what this universe could be. And it's now established itself into the conscience cards, Lowly's parchments, which are kind of excerpts or torn pages from his journal. And so he's pretty much talking about what's happening with humanity, and you can go and own those pages because they're NFTs. And the next one after that is called the Empty Relics, and that's something which I haven't really publicized yet.
Fantastic, man. Thanks for sharing that. I know for the person listening, they're like, "Oh, gee, that's a whole lot going on in terms of storyline." And it's like I can see your brain thinking about it, like the passion coming out. And what message are you wanting to create with your NFTs that you are building for the longer term? Like, let's speak on the longer term and what that looks like for the person that purchases, whether it's your NFT and somebody else's, but specifically yours. Like, what does that look like 10 years from now? Because we're in very early stages of NFT crypto space.
Mm-hmm. I mean, personally, what I see is an exclusive area in which they can exist within. So if you're thinking 10 years from now, we will most likely be very accustomed to virtual reality and augmented reality. And so now it seems like a little bit of, a niche where, yes, I can go hang somewhere virtually, but like I'll do that maybe twice a week, if I have an Oculus or a VR headset. But 10 years from now, once it's really beautiful in these places, and once people are spending a lot of time there, it will be valuable to be part of various communities and clubs. And so you can imagine, again, 10 years, if you're a part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, there's going to be all these areas within the metaverse you can go specifically as an ape, or if you're part of Pixel Vault, or if you're a part of like creatures per se. And so what I'm trying to do is create something similar, but with my own flair at the end of the day. And it's going to be more centered around music and around creativity, and allowing people within that community to share their own projects and their own artwork. So I guess the plan is to create a venue, create a library, create a gallery, all of these places that people that hold the NFT can join and be a part of, and relax in, meditate in, read in, talk to people, do whatever they want,
Mm.
And so that, because I know how expensive that is and how far off that is for me, that is my long-term goal. My short term is simply to create valuable NFTs that people want to hold. And when I sell those and prove to people that they're worth something, then I can use the revenue that I gain to consistently push that into the metaverse idea that I have. And so we'll see like when that happens. But just like yourself and so many others, like we're working day to day trying to educate ourselves and get the knowledge to hopefully be those people within 10 years that people come to, because you're the one that has the advice, So yeah.
For sure. And for someone that like they can, I'm sure there are many that are, and have that big vision like yourself. They want to make it big, but for the person that's like, God, like, hey, man, I'm just starting out in music. Like I got under 1,000 followers on my brand, on my creative project. I can't I can't do that right now. Like, what's been the hardest thing for you to paint a picture for that person diving into this space early days to create your first NFT project?
Yeah, that's been tough, to be honest with you, and I feel like I'm still getting better at that. As I said, like articulating what an NFT is and what the metaverse could be, can be quite difficult to someone who's never heard of it before. Although for those people who are finding interest and haven't had any sort of following, don't really have too much money, but have a skill set, like they have a passion that they want to provide, I would simply like say within their means to create something that they authentically think people will like, spend a day or two or a week, depending on how long it takes, to figure out what utility is going to be valuable for everybody else, and then mint plainly on OpenSea. Or if you like Tezos or Solana, go there too. But you don't need to have like a software developer who can do smart contracts and all of that kind of thing initially, because it's super expensive and really hard to find those people. And so that's why with my projects, even though I have quite a bit of funding to pump into this, I still don't want to put it into a software developer yet, because I can do exactly the same thing through the OpenSea storefront, um, until I end up with more than enough revenue to actually get my own smart contracts going. So like that is a plan for me. Like I want to do that, but initially, just like anyone who's getting into the space, I don't think it's necessary to go that route. It's more so trying to package your creativity in a way that people will resonate with.
And that, yeah, I can see that. That's just you playing your strengths of being an independent artist. Now, just in this space and doing the same thing. And you mentioned going across multiple chains, and we don't have to go into detail what those chains specifically do. But what have you found for diving to across multiple platforms like your OpenSea, like trying out Audius, like trying out Zora? How have you found, or why are you going across multiple, not just sticking to OpenSea because it's the biggest one?
I think like most things, like if you're just on Instagram, you're getting this many people, but if you're on Facebook, you get this many, or YouTube, this, and so it continues growing. What I found with all these other cross chains is that there are select communities being formed within all of them. And just like what I try and do with music is create enough exposure through my projects to allow people from all over the place to see them. So I think it's worth diversifying, just like you would in a stock or a cryptocurrency. Like it's worth being within multiple windows. So I just jumped on Tezos, on Hikitnunk, or Hen, and I'm finding that I'm figuring that out now, and like what the price points are that people are used to, and how those platforms work, and how that coin works and the token. And so that was a brand new thing for me. But I think my experience in Ethereum helped me figure that out quicker than I would have without it. Um, for someone, again, who's jumping in brand new, I would say look at the Ethereum blockchain first. Understand that there are pretty heavy fees within that, but it does seem to be the place where there's the most information. So you can start to learn about what blockchains are through that means, and then you'll start to realize that, okay, there's a number of these here. Which one resonates with me the most? Which one is going to be most suitable for my art? And maybe you'll find that Solana is that for you. Maybe you'll find that Cardano is that for you. Like, who knows?
And how do you see collaborations happening within within us and creatives in this space, how are you seeing them play out at the moment and then moving forward?
Yeah, I think collaborations are going to be like almost, if not everyone, will have to be involved with some sort of collaboration because for me, it's no longer just music now. Like I can
Yeah.
write a song in this room, produce, excuse me, and I can distribute that independently. Like I've done that plenty of times. But now, unless I want to go on Zora, I think it's Zora, um, I can't release just a piece of audio. And so that doesn't mean that won't be the case soon. However, I just don't think it's going to be that interesting if you release just like a wave file and it doesn't do anything. Even if the song is great and people believe in you, the potential to be seen at first glance is going to be limited unless you have some sort of artwork involved, maybe some animation, and yeah, all that kind of stuff. So again, I feel like it's important to recognize that you have a certain skill set and a lot of other people have a ridiculous amount of other skill sets that are probably going to be valuable to you within this space, much more so than they were within the traditional kind of space. So again, it's like developers, we're all going to need them. Website developers as well, we're going to need them because sometimes they're separate. Whether we're working, for me personally, on that builder song that I was talking about in spaces recently, where you get your friend to someone to do the synth, someone to do the drum line, someone to do the bass line, maybe me to do the acapella, and then we all come together and release a mintable project. Like there are more ways to collaborate now than there ever have been. So I think that's what's exciting.
And in terms of, I know you mentioned before stocks, and we've talked on royalties for artists now from removing from the tradition you used to and transitioning to NFTs where you have a far more interest into your community. How do you see royalties play out? Obviously, there's a legal side to it that is still yet to be uncovered, but royalties playing out for utilizing the traditional and NFTs alongside for the community to receive royalties out of it.
Hmm. Well, I think firstly, NFTs are kind of providing a royalty as such just for investing in and believing. So
Mm.
first and foremost, like if you're just purchasing into an NFT, I don't feel like you need like I don't need to go and create like a Jacob Lee lowly lyricist token as such because they can get the same amount, if not more, depending on what the NFT is, through the sentimental value that the artwork holds. That's why like Ethereum can stay at a certain price, but an NFT project can go like insane, even though it's still on Ethereum because there's a sentimental attachment and a community around the NFT itself. So firstly, I feel like people are going to make money off of people they support if they're supporting the right people. And secondly, I do believe, though, that the royalty sharing thing will become something that is quite commonplace within the next, I don't know, maybe year or two. Like Blau is doing it, he's pioneering that. And I've been lucky enough to be accepted into Royal. I applied a few months ago.
Oh,
And so, yeah, I don't even know what that means yet, but they emailed me a few weeks ago and said they like what I do. They've seen my music and they want me to be a part of Royal. So I will let you know what happens there. But no, I feel like when you can go and purchase shares into an actual track, and then you own a very certain select portion of that, and you're then someone who is assisting the marketing and the growth of that because you want to see yourself financially succeed, then people are going to be pushing the hell out of artists because they not only like the song but they want to make money too.
for sure. It's not gonna be a no longer of like, hey, just I saw this new artist called Jacob Lee. It's gonna be like, hey everyone, you need to check out this artist ASAP because they have
Yeah.
their own, you know, investment into it and their own sentimental value, like you've mentioned, into it. That's gonna You're not gonna be needing to market your music. It's gonna be somebody else doing it for you alongside you as a team, pretty much collaborating on that.
Yep.
For yourself, you've put like a lot of time, soul, and energy into your projects over the last almost year into this space. What projects are you most excited about now from I guess, other musical projects that you're seeing that you're like, wow, they're doing something pretty awesome outside of Blau. And for anyone, I'll touch it on really quickly. Blau is an electronic DJ that's just created a project called Royale.io, which allows you to pretty much invest into a song and have some returns from that. But outside of that, anyone else that you're looking at, you're like, they're doing something really cool or something very innovative.
100, dude. Like there's a select number of people who I'm really excited about. Um, Firstly, well, not this isn't in order, but what's coming to mind first is an individual who I'm not actually sure even what their name is. I think they go by OOOO online. They've got some weird alias. They are creating generative music from the animator's generative drop. So I don't know if you've seen that. It's pretty much like another PFP project, and they all have different kind of traits as they do. And this was promoted heavily by Gary Vee a few months ago, and it sold out very quickly. Now, what these people are doing, I'm not sure whether they're connected to the animators. I think that's how you pronounce it. But they have gone and analyzed every single profile picture of that collection and somehow algorithmically developed a song from that. And it's like, what? It's like, holy shit. So that's something that's happening. Also, I think Domino is doing really cool things. So I've not spoken with him on Twitter Spaces or anything like that as yet. However, he recently put out an album called Presessence, I think. And so you could go and press mint on his website and get 7 tracks for 1 transaction. And you could hold all 7 tracks as NFTs. So I think he's doing something very special. Dill, obviously, like as most of us are aware, he's doing very special things in creating crypto-centric rap, and especially being one of the first just on the planet to actually speak about speak about crypto in music. I think that's cool too. And so we're surrounding ourselves with very talented individuals who have foresight, and I think that's what's exciting. Like all of us, we all have foresight into looking at what the next 2, 3, 4 years are going to bring. Because right now, like, even though there's a lot of people making money, it's still the infancy of how much money is going to be made and how much influence you could potentially have within this brand new digital landscape. The competition is far less here. You know, it's like very small compared to the vast array of musicians and creatives in the traditional media. And so I think like there's an opportunity for us to really like push forward all of these music projects that are here early, and hopefully all of us will succeed. We'll see.
And how do you see, because you have a young boy of yourself in the family, how do you see him utilizing this type of technology and understanding the world of NFTs? Like, where do you see that? Obviously, that's a very, I guess, hot take for like 20 years from now. But how do you see him utilizing this technology?
I think like I just feel like it's going to fall into his hands. Like all of this technology will be, here you go, this is reality. And he'll know no different. And that's like really exciting, but really scary. Like I just got goosebumps thinking about that. Cause like for me, like I'm 27. And so I've been around like at the very final moments of the dial-up internet, and like where you had to switch out your telephone to get your like shitty Wi-Fi connection. And my first ever, I found this the other day. This is my first ever piece of technology. Look at this shit. Got my Game Boy just here with like Pokemon Yellow, and I found that in my mum's house, like in the back of a cupboard somewhere. And so I was thinking recently, from that to Metaverse, and I'm only 27. It's like this shit's moving very quickly, and I think for him personally, like he is going to be given all of this, and he's going to navigate it probably a lot better than even I will. And so what I'm trying to do with my projects right now is keep him in mind, so then I can succeed enough within this new area so that he doesn't have to struggle through the masses of people that are going to be within this metaverse. I think it's going to be harder to get seen in the metaverse than it will be in real life. And so that's why right now it's important to establish ourselves, because I don't know, I think it's going to be just diluted with so much just distraction, maybe, like with the
Noise,
way that I
yeah, so much
see it.
noise.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard. And so I think now we are at a point of the initialization of all of this where we can kind of get a bit of a foothold and grab on, and we can help our families along the way.
Thanks for sharing that. Switching gears a bit, you've mentioned no matter how right you are as a philosopher. There's never a destination to be reached. No, like there's only a perspective to yet be seen. In saying that, what internal or external gray area are you seeking perspective in at the moment?
Great question. Great question. I think personally, the conquering of the self, if we're going like full philosophy in this moment now,
Yeah.
like I feel like prior to having a child, I was better at conquering my own emotions and my own path day to day. Sounds weird, but I feel like with the distraction of being a father and having to really adapt to that for the first time, I found for me there's a gray area in between what I want and what I can see my potential being and where I currently am. And so, in some regard, I'm closer to what I've wanted to be than I ever have been. And in a separate section, I'm further than ever. So like you won't be able to tell now, but I used to do bodybuilding competitions. I used to be like really like healthy, tanned, like really like in that kind of world and focusing on my health. This has taken my life. And so like I'm currently like full on like within my dungeon, my studio, which I've spent a lot of time, building out. You can't see it. But I love it in here because I can see the progress of what I'm doing within this space, and I know the potential here. So I'm trying to find a balance between not getting too obsessed with one or two things and letting my mind be more balanced with what I know is important, which is obviously health. That's the primary thing that we need to prioritize. However, within this space, because it moves so quickly day to day, it's very easy not to prioritize that. And so I found like when I jumped into this shit like a year ago, I did nothing else for months. Like I didn't sleep at all. Like I was just like on way too far down that rabbit hole, and I obviously needed to kind of draw that back. So I'm kind of in the midst of figuring that out right now.
Yeah, for sure. Diving into Twitter spaces at 3, 4 a.m. from Australia just because you want to suck in some extra 1 or 2 minutes of magic juju talking about a project. I feel you on that.
Honestly, yeah.
But yeah, wrapping up, I appreciate yourself, Jacob, for putting out your own project through Lowly Lyricist. Everything you're doing for the community. For anyone that does know, Jacob, aka Lowly, is on Twitter Spaces almost daily. I'm pretty sure I see at least a few times a week on there, and you can have chats to him. You can pick his brain, pick his community around what NFTs are, NFT music, what is happening within that space. Check him out, Jacob Lee Music. Have a look at his music if you haven't already. Now, wrapping up, we do have a segment called the Final Four, Jacob, that we do on every single show. Let's dive
Yeah.
into it. I'll start off with the first one. If I had a spare 10 ETH, I would.
Buy two mutants.
Uh,
Bored Ape Yacht Club
one,
mutants.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One thing that most people misunderstand me is.
Oh man. Maybe they think I'm deeper than I am sometimes because I come across that way online when I'm just like a random Australian.
What is one of your favorite pieces of lyrics?
Ooh, good question. I've been singing all my own stuff for the past few years, so now I'm trying to figure out. This is probably not the right answer, but I feel like something from the ambiguity in the Jaden Smith lyrics, I actually really like, even though like he wouldn't be someone you would consider to be a lyricist. I actually really like his lyrics, so I'm going to go there.
And finally, what's one message you want to pass on to Jacob from 5 to 10 years from now?
So like pass on to my past self or
To
my
yourself,
future self?
your future self.
I would say that enjoy what's happening right now because it probably isn't going to last forever. This moment now that we're striving toward the future, but I think within the future we'll look back at this and realize how good it was. And so I feel like it's important to recognize that now is it's the precipice of something big, and the beginning of something is always very special. So I would say don't take advantage of now.
Thanks for that. Much appreciated. That's us wrapping up. We'll leave it on a high. We appreciate you for tuning in, listening. If you got any type of value from this, share it around with one person. Check out Jacob's music, his NFTs, his NFT project. He's pioneering the space. Peace and love. Let's roll up. Boom.